Hey, what's up guys? This is Dr. Devin Shea from Aligned Life. Today I'm going to show you how to get rid of those knots in your neck and shoulders in just 3 minutes. Let's get started. All right, so what causes a knot in the first place? Typically, either a one-time major trauma, like a slip and fall, a sports injury, a car accident, or a workplace injury, may cause a lot of damage and injury to the tissues that take place that connect the neck with the upper back. The other thing that we see that's so common in the clinic is our body's repetitive body position habits that have a chance to accumulate over time. So this would be your sitting positions, your standing positions, your lifting positions, or your sleep positions. These are the types of things that will really drive in and make chronic these knots that take place there. So a knot, or another word for that would be scar tissue or adhesion, they're really just disorganized forms of healing of the tissues. So normally when your tissues are healthy, the fibers of those tissues line up in a very organized pattern. Unfortunately, when we have scar tissue or adhesion or knots, what we notice is that those tissues will become disorganized. They overlap one another in a funky pattern. And what that does is it reduces the range of motion in our spinal joints and makes them feel tight and hypersensitive. So first thing you can do to start working on this is number one, fix your habits, right? We don't have much control in regards to whether you get an injury, right? No one wants to get an injury, but we do have control when it comes to your body position habits. So make sure that you're ergonomically correct when you're at your workstation. Make sure you're standing in a good position. Do not sleep on your stomach with your head turned to the side all night. You can imagine the amount of stress that gets placed into these traps when you spend 7-8 hours in this totally rotated position, stretching those tissues. So that would be an upstream way of being able to manage this. A downstream way, once we already have those knots, is we want to start working on these tissues from a hygiene perspective. Just like you would go to the dentist and you would get your teeth cleaned, you would go and do brushing and flossing to keep that maintenance up. Maintenance for the tissues around your upper back and neck are all about movement. So the first thing I'd recommend is doing what we call spinal hygiene, which is all about range of motion. So what we're going to do is we're going to have you look over your left shoulder and then come back to neutral. Look over your right shoulder and then come back to neutral. And you're going to do that in 5 times to each side. Then you're going to look up and back to neutral. Down, back to neutral. Same idea, 5 repetitions. Then you're going to go ear to shoulder to the other side. Always come back to this center line. I discourage this concept of doing like a big full circular type of motion. That's a really complex movement for your joints. All right guys, now that we've got those tissues warmed up, what we're gonna do is we're gonna now put a stretch through them. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna put our hand behind our back and we're gonna lock in with the opposite side. We're gonna traction down onto that area, okay? Almost like you're trying to put that hand in your opposite back pocket. What that does is it's gonna put a stretch through these tissues. And the second step for this is I'm gonna take my hand right on the side of my head and I'm gonna pull it over to the side, directly over, almost like I'm putting my ear on my shoulder. You're gonna hold that for 15 seconds. Okay, once you're done with that, I'm gonna have you keep your off hand in the same position. I'm gonna have you bring the opposite hand down to the back of the head. I'm gonna have you pull slightly down into the armpit. Keep in mind, you don't need to crank on this, right? Your goal is not to overdo it. Just light pressure is all we really need. Almost like you're trying to put your nose in your armpit. That's what we're looking for. Hold for 15 seconds. Last piece, again, with my arm behind my back, hand to the front now, almost like to my eyebrow. I'm gonna point back at a 45-degree angle. Again, we're working to stretch all the tissues through this area. Keep in mind, one of the great strategies on trying to get rid of knots here is making sure that the entire area is now working fundamentally correct. Otherwise, we can get too short-sighted, only see the small picture, and we only spend our energy working on the areas of symptom, only to find later on that the other parts of the body are still breaking down and having to take on the stress. So we want this whole section working. All right, guys, last piece of this is we're gonna use a lacrosse ball. The benefit of a lacrosse ball is it is hard enough to make a good beneficial change, but it has got a little bit of a give in it so that it's not too painful. What we're gonna do is we're gonna place the lacrosse ball directly onto the musculature that is in a knot, okay? So typically it's not on the shoulder blade and it's not on the spine, it's in the meat in between those two areas, okay? So not on the bones, guys, just in the soft tissue. You're gonna place the ball right in that spot, and what you're gonna do is with your elbow straight and your palm facing up, I'm gonna go ahead, laying on my back, I'm gonna do one full swing all the way around, 180 degree swing all the way up. Now, typically when you get to about right here, you're really gonna feel some nice strong pressure into this area. So these last, 25, 30 degrees of that range of motion is gonna be pretty intense. But what's cool about this is gonna give us a chance to really break down some of that scar tissue, reorganize that healing along the lines of stress, allow for better range of motion. And if you pair the lacrosse ball work with those other two exercises that I show you, you're gonna be able to knock this out in just 3 minutes. Remember, the repetition is the key. Manage your body position habits, work on your exercises, do this over a period of time, see the big changes. Thanks so much for listening today, guys. If you really like the video, make sure that you subscribe, give us a thumbs up, and we'll look forward to seeing you guys next time on the next video. Thanks.